Um, I am super excited to see y'all as we're getting everybody in. Share some wins. I mean, we're already first week of February. How's it going, guys? Cameras on if you can too, by the way.
I'll say I've been super busy. I've got 3 closings this month and already 1, possibly 2 lined up for next month,
Nice.
which is nice.
Congrats. I mean, Audrey,
And I
you've
have a
been
new
rocking and
person in
rolling.
training that wants to join the team.
Nice.
Maybe 2.
Let me know how I can help. I love it. I
I'm
love it.
doing FastCap and I'm actually making the phone calls. I'm doing what my mentees are supposed to be doing and I'm doing it.
Okay, hold on a minute. I want you guys all on here to understand what Jacqueline Foreman just said. Okay, Jacqueline, how long have you been in the business?
24 years.
24 years. She and her husband were one of the top at Coldwell Banker, luxury agents, all the things, incredibly successful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, but I never built
She is-
that foundation, the one that you can count on all the time, and that's the prospecting every day. And so as I'm trying to teach these people, I'm like, this time I'm gonna do it. I'm not just gonna come to the classes. So I'm doing it, and it's really rewarding. I mean, everybody wants to hear from me. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
I have the
Feels
fear,
on me.
like everybody else has, of calling people, even the people that know me, like me, and trust me. I still look at that phone and I just can't pick it up, but I'm doing it now. I'm doing the work. And so I'm excited. So
I
that's
love that.
a huge win.
That's well, and FastCap, y'all, it's free. It's part of what we have access to, right? And it's building that foundation. I'm going to actually go through it because I've been in the business, 20 years and things change. And it's like, okay, I want to stay refreshed and on top of it. And it's just another tool. Are you going with, is it Austin Chevron doing it right now?
Yeah.
Okay, Austin is amazing. He's out of Indianapolis. If you guys don't know, he's one of the top coaches in the nation. So get into FastCap. The whole point is to help you faster. What's the average, Renee?
Austin,
the average is what? 5.2 contracts to close or something?
Oh my goodness. So FastCap, I think, is on its 6th cohort. Every cohort has beat out the previous cohort. The most recent cohort experienced, now mind you, Jacqueline's probably not the norm of a FastCap agent. A lot of new agents attend, and that's okay. But they're averaging 5.9 appointments in 6 weeks and 1.9 signed agreements. A signed agreement is either a listing agreement or a contract.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's, yes, Kelly, it's part of one of the programs we have. I mean, we keep saying that there's so many classes and courses that the company is offering and providing. It is so good. They're bringing in amazing talent. So Jacqueline, I love that you shared that. I love that you're in there, and that's amazing.
I mean, I'll tell you that big legacy brokerage that I was with, I mean, no one ever taught me anything. It was just like, go do it, and I fumbled my way through it. So if you guys aren't in it and you're new or you're 2 years in or whatever, and you haven't done the foundation of actually building a business, I highly recommend it.
Oh, I love it. Renee just put in you're so good, Renee. Renee just put in the link there. So get on the waiting list too. By the way, they're doing, they're going to do Fast Attract too. So if you guys are interested in the Fast Attract, send me a message. I have the link for the waiting list, or Renee might have the link for the waiting list. But they fill up really quick. So anyway, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
What is Fast Attract?
For those that want to get into the attraction piece. Mary Jane, I think you're going to love that. Russ, I know you'll love that. In the right way, guys, right? So, but the FastCap thing, Jacqueline, that's amazing. Okay. I'm super excited, y'all. Happy Friday. I'm super glad you guys are here. I know it's early every morning. I'm still letting people in. We have Renee Funk in the house. Good morning, Renee Funk.
Did Elizabeth Riley just say rehab Renee Funk? Because I heard rehab.
No, I said we have. This is called congestion.
It's not that kind of meeting, y'all.
Well, it might be. It might be. You guys are not out. Nobody's allowed to get out of the meeting now because it is rehab. It is Rehab Fridays. That's hilarious. All right, y'all all know Renee Funk, my dear, amazing team leader friend out of Orlando, Florida. She and her husband have the Funk Collection. She is an international speaker, she's a coach, she's all the things, and she's a certified guide for exactly what to say. I know you guys love her trainings and she has agreed and I voluntold her. She's agreed once a month. She's coming in and she's teaching and she's just pouring into all of us. And I hope her team and her org are in here as well. So Renee, I know you have a lot to cover, so I don't want to talk anymore. Take it away, my friend.
Well, hello there,
Hey,
and
beautiful.
hi, eXp Realty family. It's so good to see each of you. When we were last together, one of the topics that we discussed is the impact and effectiveness of doing weekly updates with our sellers. I bet you're a bit like me, and the market is changing in one direction or another. Who's with me? All right, it's changing, and a lot of good can come from that. So don't worry if it's changing. There's always new tools in the tool chest that we can pull out, and we can think about what we're doing as a sharpening tools to show up in different ways. Elizabeth's given me about 45 minutes today, and our two core goals for the day is for me to provide you with just some consideration of tools that you might not be using. And the second consideration is walk away with a question, which is, could it be possible there are differentiators I may not be tapping into? And this is through the lens of a changing market and listings, converting listings at a higher level. So let's share a little context is we know that in a changing market, we have to look at things differently. One of the things the Fund Collection does really well is we know how to launch listings, we know how to bring listings to the marketplace, and we know how to get listings sold for top dollar. We've always been a team that crosses T's and dots I's. I can't believe in 2025 this is still a thing, but it's shocking. People still take listings with their photography with their cell phone. We've been talking about that for 15 years. It's time for that to just completely be eradicated. All that said, in September of 2024, as a team, we decided to go deep on how we were navigating our listing process. What were we doing to continue to improve our conversion? In September of 2024, Jeff and I work with my husband, my favorite realtor. We created a listing accelerator workshop, and that workshop is 12 hours. We do that workshop over the course of a 6-week period. And when Elizabeth asked me to come today, I said, all right, I'm going to bring a 45-minute condensed version of some top-level information from that listing accelerator workshop that is in real time with the Fund Collection, is already in motion, making changes and implementing as a result of a changing market and regulation change. So this is a reminder, what got us here won't get us there. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Y'all have my screen okay? Let's talk about this. First, what year is it? And y'all know I like to be interactive, so open your mic or drop it into chat. What year is it?
2025.
Say it again.
2025.
Yes, all right. What years is it not? I know you're laughing at me. Stick with me. What years is it not?
2024, 2023.
2020.
Anything before 2025.
2021.
Yes, Lisa. Yes, Lisa, I hear that. It is definitely not 2022, 2023, and throw 2021 in there, right? Those were unicorn years. And in the spirit of looking at a proven listing process the Fund Collection has utilized for, goodness, a decade that works, Jeff and I started to hear some mind trash from agents like, well, this isn't going to work. There's regulations change and the market's changing. I can't convert seller leads and people aren't wanting to list and sell their home. And we were hearing all sorts of nonsense, this mind trash, right? That isn't effective. And to set the tone whenever we're faced with change, how important is it we remind ourselves that whether we like it or not, conditions change. The market changes. It has changed. The game has changed. The rules have changed. Regulation has changed. So what? You all are badasses. You know exactly how to be the thriving agent. When was the last time you gave yourself some space to identify, hey, do I have some mind trash that's holding me back? Let's unpack that for a second. What's different about the market today, February 2025, as compared to the market in 2022, 2021-ish? What's different?
Interest rates,
Yep. What else?
inventory,
Yep.
Amount of buyers.
More of a seller's market, I mean, buyer's market.
Okay. Amount of buyers. Okay. Write this down. Old keys do not open new doors. And I see Jacqueline Foreman here, and I love that Jacqueline shared as we opened up this call, a badass, sorry, you guys are getting cursing. I hope there's no kids in the room. Badass agent who's been doing this for a number of years in so many right ways said, you know what? Old keys don't open new doors. I'm going to FastCap. I'm going to lift up underneath the hood and say, let me just do a double check audit on my tools in the tool chest. What's working, what's not. Just because it's always done this way doesn't mean it always has to be done that way. So when we're talking about specifically ways we can improve the conversion of our listings, it's important that we remind ourselves that old keys don't open new doors. It doesn't matter that the Funk Collection had a proven listing process. It doesn't matter. It's a moot point. What's going to get us to the next level through any condition is that we give ourselves the space to do a couple things. Write this down. Jam session, and think tanks. You see, in order to give ourselves space to think about what can be next on how we differentiate ourselves, we're running around with our hair on fire, feeling like we never have time, right? We have to carve out the time to think differently and say, where are untapped opportunities? What is a jam session? A jam session is literally a 20, 30 minute, you could make it 3 hours, but call it 20, 30 minute time block on your calendar with a couple of your fellow agents to say, let's jam out some big ideas. Let's have a think tank around big ideas, not because we want to say why they won't work, because we want to allow the space to say, what if it does work? What if it does work? After this meeting is done today, the focus for you is to think about what are untapped opportunities that are differentiators. And do you have any mind trash that might be getting in the way, inhibiting you from thinking bigger in any area of your business? Because I'm guessing we're all human here. Every one of us have untapped opportunity that we might have some mind trash stepping in our way with. North Star of the Funk Collection right now. Be better than your fee. Have the tenacity, the confidence, and the value proposition to go for big, bold asks. To go for big, bold asks and ask big, bold fees. You're not going to hear me negate that. You go ask for that big, big fee. You deserve it as long as your value proposition supports it. You have the responsibility to then say, I'm better than my fee. That means create an environment, in this case for sellers, that ensures I'm better than the fee I have written down here. All right, that's a little mindset for you as we set the stage for some of the top level listing accelerator, and I condensed this down. Whew, Elizabeth Riley, this was not easy. 12-hour class, condense it down into 30 to 45 minutes. I guess that means you just got to have me back.
You gotta do it.
Okay, we're going to target together today a lot on the first call. So we all know we have prospective sellers that they give us a call. They might be generated on a website, whatever your lead source is that sellers cross your desk, right? When you have a prospective seller cross your desk, you have to have a first call. So my question for each of you is, what is the desired outcome of your first call? Some of you might call that your discovery call, your pre-consult, before the actual in-person consultation around that kitchen table. What is the desired outcome of that first call? Go ahead and shout it out, open your mic, put it in chat.
Motivation.
Motivation. What else?
Appointment.
Appointment.
Get the darn appointment. Yes. What else?
Discovery.
Discovery. Yes. Man, I love this group so much. What else?
Connection.
No competition.
I heard connection. And what was the other thing?
No competition.
Eradicate competition. Yes. Okay, I love it. Let me check chat because you know what? I just realized I have chat kind of buried. Let me see if I can move this over because y'all, I'm like,
I'm following it
sometimes-
too, Renee.
Are you good? Because I like seeing chat too, and sometimes I bury it. Let's see. Set the appointment. More of about. Okay, good. All right, I got it. What is the desired outcome? We got it. Next question. How long should that first call be? Remember, this is pre-consult. How long should it be?
20 minutes.
20 minutes? Yeah. Any other shares on that?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Y'all are right on target, right? If it's any longer than that 15 to 20 minutes, then we're probably leaning into sharing too much, giving away the show, giving too much of our skill set. When we think about first calls being that 15 to 20 minute period, that creates a buffer that you don't turn into Google. Real estate agents, we have a role to give a lot away to earn opportunities. It's just innately what we do as independent contractors. However, be also cognizant, protect your space, protect your time, protect your knowledge and expertise, and be careful because when the Fund Collection was doing an audit of how we've always done listing process, first call to listing consultation appointment, what we discovered is over the last 12 to 24 months, the first call was leaning into 30 to 45 minutes, which then led to an in-person consultation around the kitchen table that was leading into sometimes 2 and 3 hours. What is one of the reasons why I'm calling this out for each of you is so that you give some thoughtful thought to this alone. Is take a look at the last few first calls you've had and do an audit. Did you keep it tight? Did you keep it in that 15 to 20 minutes? In the next couple slides, I'm going to share with you how you do that. But be sensitive to, you don't need a 30-minute first call. And in most cases, you don't need a 2 to 3 hour in-person consultation, right? Shave time off of that. That means you're earning more income. That means you're working more efficiently. When we think about listing conversion around the first call, there's a clear distinction on what our outcome and focus is. That first call is us as the professional asking smart questions to get the seller to look forward. Where are they going? What's their goal? What's prompting the sale? What is the sale of this property freeing them up to accomplish? Which is very different than when we're sitting at the kitchen table and we're in the actual listing consultation. Much of that communication is around getting them to look backward because you're going deep on the pebble in the shoe that exists in the property and why, right? Why they want to let it go. How do we keep that first call into 15 to 20 minutes? Very simply, by having framework over what is it that you're looking to achieve. You obviously need to get their property address, right? You probably already have that in whatever the initial hand raise was. You absolutely want to have what I call core 4 marketing gold. That's name, phone number, email, and mailing address. You want to have a clear understanding of who the deciding making parties. Y'all, I don't care if you've been in this industry 30 years or 3 days. It still happens to the best of us that you find yourself in that first call and you leave the first call and you go, darn it, I made the appointment and I just made it with this one individual. I forgot to ask who are the additional deciding making parties? Who else is making the move with you, right? To unpack, do you have decision makers sitting at the kitchen table? I had a 25-year agent just the other day say to me, oh my gosh, I showed up at the listing consultation in person and I realized I didn't have both spouses there. I just forgot. It happens. So be very, very mindful to say, who are the deciding making parties, and add everybody to the calendared appointment. These details matter. Pre-consultation discovery call. Who lives in the house? Who's making the move with you? Very simply. You don't have to say who lives with you. Who's making the move with you? Right? Understanding specific motivation. And one additional question important on that discovery call is, what upgrades have you made since you purchased? So they're probably going to unpack, we've lived in the house 5 years, bought it new construction, or lived in the house 5 years, and they're going to unpack a bit of the story. Understanding what upgrades or changes have you made to the property since you first moved in is a critical piece of information, right? Because when you're preparing for your in-person listing consultation, you may not have that information. It may not be anywhere when you're doing a, deep dive. You need to know so that you can start to craft what you're going into with potential listing price. All right, first call. This is a lead-in question when you call. Hi, my name is Renee Funk with the Funk Collection, brokered by eXp Realty. You inquired about selling the property on realtyorlando.com. We get a lot of inquiries through our website. Help me understand. What are you aiming to achieve with the property sale? What's the goal of the property sale? All right, you can do a little twist and make this your own. This is the question the Funk Collection uses to launch the start of any discovery call. Hi, my name is, I'm with, you inquired about selling the property, and then insert the source. Help me understand, Mark. What are you aiming to achieve with the property sale? Now you see, we're not saying the word home. Simple swaps. When we talk to sellers, it's a property. When we talk to buyers, it's a home. Sellers, you want to start that disassociation process. So you notice that's intentional. Okay, here's a few additional questions. And the goal of this first call, if you think about collecting those 6 data points, is we need to be able to answer these questions with some pretty solid confidence, like, how important is it for you, your family, to achieve X by Y? In that first call, how important is it for you to sell the Windermere property before summer of 2025? You see how we're inserting a time frame? Just out of curiosity, what's the sale of the Windermere property freeing you up to move on to, achieve, accomplish? Where are you going? Now, they might already launch into, when you ask the first question, we need to sell, our oldest just went to college, we have too much room, my youngest is still in high school, we have a long commute to the high school, we'd rather be closer. You might unpack all that. These questions may not be necessary. And yet sometimes agents share that, hey, I just have this like high D, they don't want to unpack, they don't want to give me the goods. These are 2 important things you can narrow in on to say things like, how important is it for you to achieve moving closer to your son's high school and reducing that square footage before school starts in August. You see how that gets you closer to understanding motivation, intent, and timeline, preparing you for your consultation. All right, let's talk about 3 factors that helps drive decisions. If we want people to do things they typically don't want to do, we're the professionals and we need to first truly understand the reason that's big enough for making a move. I share that with you from a sense of empathy. Remember, when a seller reaches out to you for in any platform, they might call you inbound, they might register on your website. Can we do a reset and remember how much that seller doesn't want to sell their home? Does anybody really want to move? I know we have investors that these are, they may not be their primary residence. I get all those, outlying situations, but does anyone actually really want to go through the process of moving? Not really. Not really. We have to really get clear on things that will give them a true reason that's big enough, right? So remember, people make a decision for 3 reasons because it's incentive, things they want to move toward. They want to move toward something. In the scenario I gave, well, that seller has too much space. Kid moved away to college, so parents are going to kick them out and take their bedroom away, right? And they're sick and tired of driving their high schooler in 9th grade back and forth, right? They want to move towards some time freedom and some space freedom. They don't need all that space. Probably reduce their mortgage payment. People make decisions because of things what they want to run from. That's fear and pain driven, right? The pain of longer commute times, the pain of too much space and too big of a mortgage payment. And the third thing that really can determine decisions is self-fulfillment. So things that make their heart sing, right? Things that make them go, oh man, my feet are happy when my feet hit the ground on Monday morning because of what I'm able to accomplish. Self-fulfillment and incentive kind of go hand in hand here. So when we think about that first call, having some empathy too to the fact that people don't really want to move. It's not fun. It's not fun. Before you can convince someone to move, we must truly discover the reasons for them to move out. Moving out. You need to understand those reasons, which is so key. Some additional framework for that first call. Y'all are amazing, and I heard a few of you share. You keep that target time frame 10 to 15 minutes. We know any longer than that turns into the consultation. And then that means your in-person consultation is just going to be twice as long as well. So keep that framework and intentionality. We started with what's the desired outcome? Well, the desired outcome of that first call is to make a next appointment, right? Smart agents never, ever, ever make the next appointment immediately today or tomorrow. The consumer wants to work with professionals they know are productive and have commitments already on their calendar. Please don't worry. It doesn't mean the consumer might not ask, hey, it's 10:30 in the morning. Can you pop over at 1 o'clock today? They might ask. It does not hurt you in any way to say, well, golly, I have a previous commitment with another customer in town this afternoon. When would be a good time over the next couple of days? Right? You might have somebody who you identified. There's no way they're going to sell. They're looking at, I might just want to have an idea for 2026. Well, then you can reframe the appointment time for when would be a good time over the next week or so. You don't need to rush. We call the run rush a Pop-Tart agent syndrome. One of the benefits of the regulations change, Jacqueline says, is it best to use customer in this scenario? Yeah, well, and that could be state specific, but yes. So typically, I see your question, Jacqueline. If it's someone you don't have an agreement with yet, it's a customer. And if it's someone you are in an agreement, listing agreement or buyer agreement, that's a client. And I realize that can be different for different states. So
I just wondered if that was a play on words psychologically for you.
it could be before regulations change. In Florida, we always said customer. Elizabeth used to, kind of giggle at me. She's like, I say client. I'd say, I say customer.
Customer sounds like old person. I don't know.
And there's some agency representation regulation that can vary. And for us in Florida, it is framework we have to say. Customer is someone we're not in agreement with yet. Client is when we have an agreement in place. Good question, Jacqueline.
I just went through training and and education said the same thing. Once they're assigned, they're a client, but
Yeah.
before that, they're a customer.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So Pop-Tart agent syndrome is something that I think is attached to an old process. So you know how the portal leads, and this is not a knock, it's just a fact. You know, the portal leads, like the Zillow leads and things like that. The model around those leads for a long, long time was like, get the lead, run, like answer the call and say, what time do you want to meet today? And just run. Like it's almost like that door opener mentality. If you're doing that and it works for you and it's compliant, keep doing it. It's not a knock. It's just that the nudge for professional agents is to think differently about being in consultation mode. And one of the things I see happen with agents, especially if it's a friend or a family member, which is why this slide says, but Renee, I don't have to worry about setting the appointment this afternoon. I don't have to worry about doing a proper consultation. This is a family member. This is a best friend. And my question in that regard is, so what is it about your family member or best friend that doesn't deserve the same level of service and high level process that your customer that doesn't know you is? Just curious. Why do we run and jump for family members and not do the full consultation process? Right? For those of you who have some kind of pre-consult, I know, Elizabeth, you send out a package that's couriered over or sent over before your appointment. So do we.
Mhm.
We send a box. Actually, this box,
Yeah, what Renee sends is pretty impressive. It's much more than what I send.
right? So we actually send a box. That's a whole nother thing for another day that gets couriered over or overnighted prior to the appointment. Whatever you send, please know this. If you're not sending it for every single prospect, I don't care if it's your mom, then what is it about that relationship that doesn't deserve the same level of service? Ask yourself that. So no Pop-Tart agent syndrome, get into consultation mode, slow the process down to speed up the outcome. Star, I see you, 100%, yes. All right, so
Renee, would you do me a favor? Just, I
Yes,
know it's a
ma'am.
whole nother conversation, but
Yep.
quickly, can you just share what you put in that listing box? Just so
Sure.
people, yeah, because it's pretty impressive, y'all.
I probably have most of it here, but so we've been a team for 10 years. Why I hesitate to show it, Elizabeth, is context. You
know.
don't have to send it just like this. You scale your business. I'm not encouraging you to go out and spend a bunch of money. Sending something, even a note card in advance, can be a differentiator. We are now at a point as a large mega team that we do this. So it's a box with a magnetic close, okay? There's print collateral inside. I'm happy to go deeper on a future meeting. And then we have a video, which the batteries, oh, there we go. So the video book plays the introduction of the agent. Okay, so this video book plays the introduction. Here's what I want the takeaway to be about whatever you send in advance. Listing consultations around the kitchen table are not the time for the listing agent to say the me show. What you send in advance should be resources, whether it's a digital listing presentation, which by the way, EXP Canva, if you're not in that every day, I'm going to tell you, I've been at EXP 7.5 years. I go into Canva every day and I'm like, more resources, more resources. And the resources that exist are getting to the point where we used to say, well, we like it, but we have to tweak it. I'm getting to the point where straight up, I'm even using resources direct from Canva that EXP is providing because they're free and they're that good. So think about what you send before your listing consultation. Whatever resource displays the you show, how awesome you are, the solutions you provide, your awards, all the things, and you send it in advance so that they look at it before you get there. When you show up in person, it's the seller's time to shine. It's all curiosity to ask them questions and none of this. Does that help, Elizabeth?
Very much so. Would it be helpful if we do a, one of our huddles, we do a free listing packet kind of coaching conversation? Put it in the, just put a thumbs up in the chat, because I do mine different. Renee does hers different. If you're in luxury, y'all, like I was showing a friend earlier this morning, the presentation creator that took 2 seconds that I literally found out about a meeting. I put in, I did it for 2 minutes, sent it to UPS store, had it printed, had it bound, and I got a $3 million condo listing from it, right? It doesn't have to be rocket scientist. Okay, so there's a lot of that. So Renee, you and I can do a pre-listing one later on, because again, to her point, don't spend money till you're making money. It's where you're putting your time and being intentional that can make the most impact. All right, sorry. Squirrel.
Elizabeth and I are very aligned on this. No, the number one reason why new agents fail is because there's not enough people surrounding them, protecting them, telling them not to spend money and to avoid shiny objects. So that's why when you reach a point of scale, it's a responsibility, I feel, to be contextually like, hey, you can create a client appreciation event with 2 clients and a potluck and deliver as much impact as the client appreciation event the Fund Collection hosted last year with, 200 people, right? It's about being very intentional. All right, so first call, we know that we've gained those 6 areas, right? We have clear distinction on who the deciding making parties are. We've got some general timeline information on the importance of when and why they're needing to sell this property. And we're about ready to schedule the appointment. Okay, now, before, I should not share this slide yet. I want to talk to y'all about something. I knew this was going to be hard. There's so much to unpack here. I'm so excited to be here with y'all. Okay, I left something out that's so critical. First call. We talked about the importance of setting the appointment. I left out the fact that there's 2 types of appointments you can set. And this is important. You see, prior to September of 2024, the Fund Collection was going into these first calls with the goal of only setting a listing consultation. We've added a second opportunity, and that's called an equity assessment appointment. Not all sellers need to or should sell right now. When was the last time you looked at Zestimates or any computer-generated valuation online? Are you seeing a trend I'm seeing? Zestimates have a swing. Most of the Zestimates don't have a pinpoint price anymore. Most of the computer-generated algorithm valuations that the consumer sees will say something like 700,000 to 900,000. Jeff and I've more recently started using Fellow. A recent team listing that we acquired, which is going to market for 1.5, had 3 computer-generated valuations with a swing of 600,000 to 1.5. How awesome is that? That's so awesome. Why? Because it continues to prove the need to have a professional. And if you notice, the equity assessment is an opportunity for us to say, hey, look, it's not always the best time for you as a homeowner to sell the property. One of the things we pride ourselves on is helping you determine when the best time is. Would it be helpful if I shared with you some of the differences between those computer-generated valuations You notice my body language. You do this. Computer generated valuation. It's not a Zestimate. As compared to a professional equity assessment for your position that you've earned over the last couple of years. See the difference? All right, cool. Let me go back to my slides. I don't do anything in 45 minutes. It's
You do.
it's so hard. I just lost my-
I'm nudging you and pushing you out of your comfort zone.
You totally are. This is Elizabeth going, more high D, Renee, more high D. Hold on, now where the heck did my slides go?
It's always fun when she's voluntold. By the way, she does that to me too. So don't make her.
And I didn't see if Brian White's on the call, but I feel for Brian White because I think he lost his slides last week, and I'm like, yep, I lost my slides. All right.
Actually, and it's Brian White's birthday today. He is not on the call. So any of you guys reach out to him on workplace chat and stuff and tell him happy birthday.
Oh, Brian White, happy birthday, friend. All right, let's come back to sharing my screen, and I'm gonna bring this ship home, I promise. All right. Whoops, wrong thing. See, I got all distracted because I got excited.
World.
All right. You've determined if you're setting up an equity assessment appointment or you're setting up the actual in-person consultation. Getting a feel for what their early thoughts are on pricing is key. Have you ever shown up to the in-person listing appointment and you're like, ooh, I'm thinking it's landing somewhere between $650 and $700? And you show up that day and you realize that the seller wants to get 1.5, and you go, oh, yikes, maybe I could have done a little bit different discovery in the pre-qual to find out if I should have even been present for this appointment, right? Because we're not in the business of acquiring listings. We're in the business of choosing if we're going to work with the seller and then selling their property, especially in a market like right now. So here's one of the ways you wrap your call. So Elizabeth, I haven't had a chance to pull up the property yet, but just out of curiosity, what are your early thoughts on pricing? Very specific emphasis there. Now, a lot of times when we do these first calls, it's not expected of us to be like in front of resources. It's not a formal presentation. It's certainly not a consult. These types of first calls sometimes might happen in the car. They might happen in a less formal environment. And there's not a lot of expectation for you to have every T crossed and I dotted. It's okay to admit in that moment is, hey, Jacqueline, I didn't get a chance to fully pull up the property yet. Just out of curiosity, what are your early thoughts on pricing? Right? Because
we'll take it.
what's that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, that was Jessica. So that'll give you a bit of a framework, right? So you don't end up showing up in person to something that they want to sell for 1.5 and you know darn well it's not a penny over 700,000.
Renee, can I just say one thing to that? Because sometimes we're afraid to ask those questions, but I will say that I just do it now because I've been doing it so long. And maybe 1 out of 10 times will that person say, oh, that's what you're here for. They literally do want to tell you what they think it's worth. So don't be afraid to ask it, because it is a critical question, right?
Yeah.
But what's nice about that too is then now you know how to approach the conversation, and you're either saying, okay, well, great, we have some work to do. Let's figure out why they think it's there, right, with the comps. But what I love is when they think it's lower than what the valuation is. And then you can come in and be the hero. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm excited because I think I have some really great news to share with you, right? So you now know how to adjust how you're approaching that conversation. Instead of a combative, it's more of a partnership, and how we come alongside in the pricing.
That's so true. And sometimes they might say like, hey, I'm looking online and I saw this, right? And whatever that is, I saw the neighbor's house, the last 3 sales, I saw the Zestimate, whatever they bring to the table, you say, oh, that's fantastic. That actually, it's great you brought that up. That is one of the data points we'll take a look at. In fact, did you notice that 1-3 Banana Street down the street had this attribute about it? Like, how does that differ from yours? right? Like if they throw the neighbor's house down the street, now this becomes the hyperlocal expert thing, right? You might know the house down the street didn't have an updated kitchen, but the prospect you're on the call with just told you, we've lived here 7 years, we updated the kitchen. You might say, oh, well, that'll be interesting that we take a look at that and see some of the differences between comparable property with not having an updated kitchen compared to yours. That leads you into your next conversation to go deeper. But I love the reminder. Don't be afraid to ask, just to be prepared. They might say, like, I've had it a bunch of times. No, I want your opinion. Fantastic. That's some of the things we're going to go over when we meet in person. Have you seen anything specifically that might give you an idea on pricing? Then they go, oh yeah, I saw the Zestimate. It says 800 to 900,000. Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy? Can you imagine how we would all feel if we logged into our bank account and we saw our current balance with $100,000 price swing? Y'all, I've said that. Okay. Now, 1049. All right, awesome. As you're wrapping, you always want to embed the command that you're sending something next for them to look at. You want to give them the instruction. Here's the natural next steps. This shows them you've done this before. You've done this exactly for people like them. So, hey, James, it's been great chatting with you. I can't wait to see you on Thursday, 1 p.m. at 123 Banana Street. It's important for you to know in your email after this call, I'm going to be sending you an email with the following items. Now, one of the things we send is we have a hyperlocal resource that's specific to their neighborhood. So we send them a link to that resource. We do not send digital like listing presentations. You can if you want. That's another reason to go into our next meeting, Elizabeth, and some of the differences of sending your listing presentation digitally as compared to sending it tangible for their hand. But we don't send anything digital other than an online resource for their neighborhood. Then I say, a package is also going out. It will land on your front porch prior to our appointment on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Will you be available to read through the package that lands on your front porch? Fantastic. Make sure you take a look at that before our appointment. You see how I'm giving them exactly what I want of them. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. Real quick, this is screenshots of we use Follow Up Boss, your CRM. We're doing, if we set up an equity assessment, we do a 30-minute Zoom. We try to knock them out in 20 minutes. That's training for another day on how we're doing our equity assessments. I will say, Elizabeth, on this is a pivot. I don't know if I've shared with you yet. We're leaving every closing table securing our next appointment and setting the stage for, many of our sellers have shared with us, especially in today's market, they're finding value in receiving an update on their equity at least once a year. Can we go ahead and lock in that 20, 30 minutes? And we secure an appointment in about 4 to 6 months. Now you're going to say they may not have equity built up by then. It doesn't matter. You want a reason to reach out to them. So we're doing equity assessments calendared for both previous customers who just closed, as well as the other avenue of appointment if you find out in your first call with a seller that they're not really ready to do a full-blown listing consultation in person. Okay. We set up our property listing consultations in person or on Zoom, more in person for us, and we do a calendared time for 90 minutes, and we're working really diligently to get those between an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. If you're an agent who knocks them out in less than an hour, I need to collaborate with you because I would love to get our agents going into in-person in 45 minutes, but we've just not seen it. We're trying to keep it tight, less than 90 minutes. I see someone in chat. Awesome, Star. I love it. Let's collaborate. Oops. All right. So I have 3 minutes to do a couple simple swaps as it relates to sellers. I mentioned earlier, simple swaps on communications. When you talk to sellers, it's a property, it's not a home. We have a lot of guard gated communities. We don't call them manned gated, we call them guard gated. Fund collection no longer does CMAs, their equity assessments. Every other agent says CMA. We're looking to be different. Remember how we started our training today? Where's the untapped opportunity to think differently about how we interact with, present services? All of the things we're doing sound differently. So equity assessment. It's not my listing, it's the listing. If you're saying my listing, even in your social media, the seller's looking at that going like, what do you mean it's your listing? It's not Jessica's listing, it's the listing. The only one that matters. We're not agents, we're professional listing specialists. You want to shorten it, totally fine. If you have a seller saying I'm interviewing agents, great. When are you interviewing other agents as compared to when we're meeting and scheduling a professional appointment with a listing specialist? This compared to this. It's not an agreement, it's paperwork. There's all different simple swaps for price reductions. The one that the team is using more frequently is a realignment. When we talk to sellers at our weekly seller appointments, we're doing an assessment to see if we need a realignment to the market, not a price adjustment, not a price drop. It's just, let's take a look and see if we need a realignment to the market. So we look at those as price realignments. And then a few additional simple swaps is we don't say sign the listing agreement, or we don't even say sign the paperwork anymore. We're using phrases like, all right, so the next step is we activate the listing, right? If you're doing paper, sometimes we still do paper signatures because we bring listing agreements with us, the actual paperwork, just in case, because if they're ready to get it moving, we'll just push it across the table and say, fantastic. Because of the fact that you said you need to move into that next home before June, and you're wanting to get this transaction complete in the next 30 to 45 days, the next step is we activate the listing and you just push it across the table. Also, some of the agents are using a marketing activation. Well, can you just go ahead and schedule the listing photography and I'll talk to my spouse and we'll get this paperwork signed later. The next step to market, to activating the marketing is that we activate the paperwork here, right? All right, everybody, I did it. Oh my gosh, that was fast and furious.
See? People think things can't be done. Look what you did. Was this
My-
helpful?
My goodness, I feel like I'm talking a million miles a minute. Jeffrey Fahey, Floridian in the house.
Hi, Renee. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Good, I'm glad.
I
How
have a
can I help?
question. I have a question.
Yep.
Why do we say property for the sellers instead of home?
There is a point of distinction and a process of disassociation. When a seller's selling, especially if it's a primary resident, what have they typically done? They've built memories in their home. They've called it their home. So starting that process of this is the property that you're selling, and when you're helping them move into their next home, on the buy side, you refer to that as their home because they're going to start building memories into their home.
Okay, that's pretty smart. So you're trying to separate them from that.
Start the disassociation process. And there's, I did a full remodel in 2023 where we had to move out of our house 9 months. And I've lived in this house for 16 years. So I haven't personally moved in a very long time. The act of but I just moved out of my house for almost a year. The act of packing everything up, like going through all the school things, memory, that was very impactful for me as a real estate professional to feel what it feels like. And we forget because we're we like help people do this all the time. And it's very transactional. It's the human nature for us as agents to go like, well, we just know this is the next step. Like sign the paperwork. I'm going to call the photographer. We're going to knock this out of the park. I'm going to get you the most amount of money. Like we talk very clinically about it like a doctor. But we forget they're like in that four walls with the roof and they're packing things in a box. And I promise you, if they have some type of memory associated, at some point they're going to cry over a box. It will happen. And then we get frustrated as an agent because the seller is difficult. So this one thing of like disassociate, this is a property. It's okay. We're going to get you in your next home. You're going to read, you're going to turn the next chapter to this. It's that first step. And sometimes words are really impactful to start that thought process.
Thank you.
Yep. What other questions do we have? I see you, Brian Copeland. You're like busy bee over there. Let's see if I see you, Brian Copeland, busy bee.
This is so helpful. And even for those of us that have been in the business a long time, I mean, I always and I talk to Renee all the time. Like I hear these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of it this way. So I think it's great, even if you're new or not, like take these and figure out what your wording is and what's authentic to you and how you can best apply it into your business. But this is a huge reminder and a lesson for me as well. So
when we started this time together, one of the things I shared is my hope is you walk away with thinking about the tools in your tool chest, right? Being open-minded to think about what have I always been doing? Simple swaps that work for me may not be the best fit for you. Whether you use the simple swap examples I gave you or not, that's not the most important thing. To be thinking about what simple swaps will work for you and how you can differentiate yourself, that's the win, right? If you take away one tool I shared today, that's a win. If you walk away saying, what could I change and elevate in my first call when I speak to sellers, that's a win. Old keys don't open new doors. And if we're always focused on being better than our fee, then we get the gift of being able to confidently say, this is my fee, unapologetic, right?
love it. Renee Funk, thank you, my friend. All of you, thank you for showing up, being present and plugging in. We're all better together. And so happy Friday. We are at the top of the hour. Make it a great weekend. And then we will see you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.
My pleasure. Make it a great day.
Bye, everyone.